It's been a very busy day in the NHL trade world, and we're going to take a look down at the remaining rumors that for some guys that are still not dealt as of today, or some other moves we might see. Plus, we have a bunch of news to talk about as well, including news from the waiver wire, big signing in Detroit, as well as several signings of prospects as well. All on coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover here today. Lots of trades. I'm sure you've been keeping up with it. Other things posted to the channel. So certainly, just to quickly recap, we've seen a lot of activity today. Jacob Chychrun finally traded. He's now an Ottawa Senator after a long rumor mill featuring Chychrun for a number of weeks and months. And Ottawa was probably one of the original teams linked to him for a long time. The price finally lowered. He finally got moved. Good to see for his sake, as well as Ottawa's and Arizona's, just to get that over with. We've seen some other deals as well. Detroit and Vancouver hooked up on a deal with Philip Hronek. We've seen Goss's Berry traded to Carolina, and all in all, so everything's posted to the channel. Up until right now, at least. If there's any more later into the evening, then that may come later, or it may be tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. Depends on when the news breaks. On to the waiver wire news. Pittsburgh Penguins had Brock McGinn and Mark Friedman on waivers. They both cleared. So they can be reassigned to get them some extra cap space. So we'll see what the Penguins do with the newfound space. Of course, they also traded Teddy Bluger tonight, so they're obviously targeting some kind of other move that we'll have to wait and find out on. The Washington Capitals have signed defenseman Nick Jensen to a 3-year contract, just over $4 million per season. We've seen the Capitals sell off a lot. They've moved out a lot of players here recently, but obviously Jensen is not going to be one of those guys. He's sticking around to be part of the retool going into the future here with Washington, so it's a pretty decent signing for him. And the Red Wings, this is a big signing. The Red Wings get their captain inked up for an 8-year deal. Dylan Larkin signs 8 years at $8.7 million per season. He gets a full no-trade clause for the first 5 years. Then it changes to a modified no-trade for the final 3, giving him a 10-team list that he can veto a trade to. So, I don't know. I mean, it's a little bit more than Bo Horvat got. He can probably thank Bo for his contract for getting his value up. I mean, he's a great player, good leader in Detroit, big part of that franchise. I'm not sure. I mean, we'll see how he does. He very well might make this contract pretty, valuable, earn it for sure. I do wonder if it might be just it was a little more than I thought he would get, but I think a lot of that's dictated by the market. I don't think it's because Larkin's not necessarily worth it. It's just we've seen some other contracts, like the Horvat one, kind of push Larkin's value up. So I guess good on Detroit for getting it done. He's just a guy you can't lose there in Detroit. Otherwise, you're going to kind of be starting over again, and they've made a lot of progress to get where they are. So it doesn't make sense to do that. Now on to some other signings. We do have one signing, for example. We have the Winnipeg Jets signing a goalie prospect, Evan Cormier, 20-year contract for the rest of this season at $750,000. The rest of today's signings are all prospects that are for next year. Today's the first day, March the 1st, that teams are allowed to sign entry-level contracts that kick in next season. So because of that, we saw a bit of a flurry of activity today. Montreal Canadiens signing prospect Xavier Simoneau to a 2-year ELC at $855,000 a season. We saw the Pittsburgh Penguins sign 2021 5th-round pick defenseman from Gatineau, Isaac Beliveau, gets his ELC. The Islanders signed goalie prospect Tristan Lennox, who's a 20-year-old prospect out of Saginaw in the OHL. He was a 2021 3rd-round pick. He gets his ELC with the New York Islanders. Washington Capitals have signed center Ryan Hofer. He's a 20-year-old prospect from Kamloops in the Western League. He was a 2022 6th-round pick. And the Minnesota Wild have signed Caden Bankier, who's also a 20-year-old center from Kamloops, teammates with Hofer, who was a 2021 3rd-round pick. Now, with the other deals we've seen today, one player we might see on a move yet again is goaltender Jonathan Quick, who was unexpectedly traded from the Los Angeles Kings to the Columbus Blue Jackets. We saw reports earlier from Frank Saravalli indicating that Jonathan Quick was very unhappy with this deal, felt blindsided by the move. Many thought he'd be a lifetime member of the Kings throughout his entire career, and that's not the case. He was traded to Columbus for Korpisalo and Gavrikov, as well as some other draft picks involved. And many feel that Columbus is not going to hold on to him. He's not going to be happy there. And I'm not really sure exactly what his feelings are. We don't know unless he speaks and tells us, of course. But the feeling and general consensus around the league is that Quick is likely going to be flipped. We're talking possibly for reinforcement in Toronto. Of course, they have Samsonov and Murray. Murray's always hurt right now on LTIR. Can he be activated for the end of the season? I don't know. We don't know that he won't either. But his brother-in-law is Matt Moulson, former NHL player, and of course, good friends with John Tavares as well. Matt Moulson retired recently and now works as a pro scout for the Maple Leafs. So certainly a lot of connections there to Toronto. They could use some reinforcements in goal. So if the Jackets were retained 50%, suddenly Quick becomes a lot more affordable. Maybe they do a swap of something off the roster for Quick. I mean, not to say that's going to happen for sure, but I think there's some degree there makes sense. Vegas needs goaltending help, so you got to wonder about Vegas as well. They're the main teams mentioned right now, but we'll see if he stays with the Jackets or gets flipped. Still lots of talk about the Canucks and Penguins talking, but there's a various degree of different reports there. The Canucks are definitely trying to move Brock Boeser for sure. There's some activity, sounds like, on JT Miller, although many feel that the Miller trade is less likely given the contract and the longevity and amount of money. Boeser contract is more likely to get moved, but again, for a player who's been underperforming, difficult and challenging right now for sure. But there's been a lot of talk that the Penguins and Canucks have been chatting, and that's one of those two. It seems like Vancouver media seem more convinced it was Boeser. Pittsburgh media seem more convinced it was Miller. Don't really know. That the belief was if the deal did get reached, there would likely be a defenseman or two going back to Vancouver, probably Marcus Pettersson, maybe somebody else, I don't know. But then Elliot Friedman seems to think that the Penguins are targeting Mikael Granlund out of Nashville. Of course, he's got 2 more years on his deal. At $5 million, he's got 36 points in 58 games. They've, obviously been able to demote Brock McGinn. They traded Teddy Bluger. Somebody who's playing that middle 6 area probably makes sense for them. And of course, Casper Kapanen recently departed Pittsburgh via waivers as well, going to St. Louis. So they're trying to shake things up there for sure and get a different look. Will it be Boeser? Will it be Granlund? It's really difficult to say what is going to happen. But between Brock Boeser and JT Miller, it's widely expected one of those two guys does get moved. But we'll see. Neither one of them is easy. That's a given. And given how Vancouver picked up Philip Hronek earlier from Detroit, I don't think it's fair to say that they're going to go into in a rebuild mode to pick up a 25-year-old defenseman. With a little bit of turn tells me that they're trying to retool on the fly here, which is, I'm not sure how the fan base feels about that. They traded the first-round pick they got for Bo Horvat, so it's not going to be loading up with prospects for the 2023 draft. I honestly think it might be a mistaken direction by the team, but it doesn't surprise me knowing how ownership doesn't seem to ever want to rebuild there. But we'll see what happens. Lots of activity still. Tomorrow is the day before the deadline day, so we're bound to see some more activity with hopefully a little bit more on Friday as well. But we've seen a lot of activity so far. Let me know what your thoughts are on the latest rumors. What else we're going to see before Friday's deadline? Let me know in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date as best we can here with everything happening on the NHL Trade Deadline for 2023 and beyond. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.